The school bus was coming forward, with the laughter and conversations of the children. Usman, the driver, tells a lot of jokes and makes the children laugh. The bus turned inland. There was no one on the way. Suddenly, a bearded young man came and stood in front of the bus. "Is this the bus at Kushal School?" He said yes, and another young man got into the bus from behind. But he pulled out a gun and asked out loud, "Who is Malala? If you don't say so, everyone will be shot." No one said anything. They had already identified the girl who was not wearing the headscarf in the crowd. He aimed and fired. The bullet struck the girl in the left eyebrow. Despite knowing that killing women was against their tribal culture, the Taliban tried to do so because her name was Malala. Yes, the real supporter of women's education in Taliban. Malala Yousafzai. Malala was born on July 12, 1997 in the Swat Valley in northwestern Pakistan. Before we start with Malala's story, we need to know about her birthplace and her parents. After the partition, Swat in Pakistan smelled of terror because of the arrival of Taliban. The Taliban in Swat were under the control of Maulana Fazlullah. He set up a radio station illegally and started broadcasting through it every day to reach out to the people. This is how he got the name Radio Mullah. Initially it was a Quran class, but slowly the voice of extremism was heard on the radio. He banned music, movies and dance, saying they were sinful. He set fire to CD, DVD and TV shops. Except for songs praising the Taliban, nothing was broadcast. Beauty parlors and barber shops were closed. Their argument was that men must wear beards, women should not go out without men. Not only schools that teach girls, but even madrasas were ordered to close. Other laws included whipping women who did not cover their entire bodies, banning polio drops, telling them not to treat before they got sick, and disconnecting pipelines and currents. But there were somebody who opposed the Taliban's brutal laws. One of them is Ziauddin Yousafzai. Ziauddin was a man who emerged from the harsh conditions of life with the power of education. He, realizing that knowledge is a weapon, and the young man started his own school after completing his studies. Ziauddin's attitude was unusual in that society because he also considered his wife's opinion. But Taliban believed that the price of a woman was the price of grass. If boys are born, Swat Valley will be festive. They will celebrate it by firing upwards and giving presents to the cradle. But if girls are born, it's like a house of death. The women of that valley are only a tool for giving birth and doing housework. But the educated and conscious Ziauddin was not like that. Still, many were surprised that his daughter was given the name Malala, which means sad. But Ziauddin gave the name because of the memory of Malala, the daughter of a shepherd, who died fighting against the British. Malala Yousafzai grew up in a hut next to a school, with no kitchen or bathroom. Maybe it gave Malala to an extraordinary mental strength for suffering all strange situations. Abdul Hai Kakar, a BBC spokesman in Peshawar, shared an idea with Ziauddin. Write a blog about the hellish lives of women under the Taliban. If it is written by a girl from Swat, it will be more credible. Ziauddin, who opposed the Taliban, liked the idea. Aisha, the sister of the teacher Mariam, got the first chance. But her father was not allowed to that, because he did not have the strength to stand up to the Taliban. When he told his daughter about it, she gladly accepted the job. But the absence of the internet at her home was a problem. But they found a way to solve this problem. Kakar calls Malala on the phone every day. She told all about her day, dreams and problems, and it will be published in a blog post. But even then, they paid a lot of attention for this. An example of this is that Kakar used to call from his wife's phone to Malala's mother's phone, for fear of leaking their phone calls. Malala Yousafzai used the name Gulmakhai because it would be a problem if her name was leaked. The word Gulmakhai means corn flour. The first blog post was published on Saturday, January 3, 2009, entitled, "I'm Afraid." Such experiences on the BBC's Urdu site quickly became the talk of the town. The families of those who faced Taliban sanctions were also discussed there. Going to school in a color dress, without a uniform because the Taliban might oppose it, like this, all shared on it. The children were not happy about the holidays this time, because we know that if the Taliban order is carried out, there will be no more schools." These are the lines from the January 14th blog. After dozens of schools were demolished and hundreds of schools closed, the military took over protection of educational institutions. These are just a few words from that blog. Malala Yousafzai could not contain her joy as words were being discussed all over the world. The blog was sure to hurt the Taliban. So her father strictly asked Malala never to reveal her name. But after seeing her school and some other references that were the main presence on the blog, many realized that Malala was behind this. Gradually, it became popular all over the country. Malala Yousafzai has won the 2011 International Peace Prize because of the documentary of Adam Ellie for the New York Times about Malala as the girl who spoke out against the Taliban's brutal ban. The award was presented by Prime Minister Yusuf Raza. As soon as Malala and her friends were shot, driver Usman drove the vehicle to the central hospital in Swat. The news spread quickly. At that time Malala's father was speaking at a ceremony. He too rushed to the hospital after knowing this. He thought that his daughter would not happen to anything because she was a girl, and that the Taliban would take revenge only on him. But it went wrong. With the immediate intervention of the chief minister, Malala was transferred to a combined military hospital. Malala Yousafzai was treated by Junaid, a military doctor who is a neurosurgeon. The bone was broken, and one of the slits went into the brain. So the surgery started at 1:30 in the morning. A small part of the top of the skull was cut off, and the bullets were removed. But Malala was in a coma on all this time. Malala Yousafzai was visited by two doctors in the Queen Elizabeth Hospital from Birmingham on the instructions of Military General Kayani. One of them, Dr. Fiona, transferred Malala to Rawalpindi Military Hospital. Malala's condition was critical. Because of the high security, high-ranking personnel were not allowed inside. They decided to take him abroad for specialist treatment. But the idea of America was not acceptable to Pakistan. There were problems with it, including the capture of bin Laden inside the Pak border. It was finally decided to take her to Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Britain. How to get to Britain was also an issue. Britain was ready to help if the Pakistani government officially requested it. But Pak was not ready for that. It finally got the private jet of the UAE government. But only Siavuddin and Malala were allowed to leave by the Pakistani government. It may be due to the fear of seeking political asylum in Britain if the family as a whole leaves. But Ziauddin refused to leave his other children and wife alone in Pakistan, finally making the documents with Dr. Fiona as her guardian. Malala Yousafzai flew to the UK on the morning of October 15th. She was alone in an unfamiliar place. A week later, Malala opened her eyes. Several surgeries had already been performed on her body. Malala was breathing with the help of a tube. She called home on Dr. Javid's phone. She could not speak and only listened to everything. Malala Yousafzai released a video message to the world. "I'm still alive, thank you all." At that time, Malala Yousafzai has become the most famous teenager in the world. Hundreds of people waited for her to be adopted, with gifts and marriage proposals at Birmingham. Malala Yousafzai was then discharged from the hospital on January 3, 2013. In 2013, Angelina Jolie wrote a letter asking that Malala be considered for the Nobel Peace Prize. When the Times selected the 100 most influential people in the world, Malala was among them. Malala Yousafzai came to speak at the United Nations with Benazir Bhutto Shoal. Malala Yousafzai has also bagged a number of awards. The UN also devised a plan to promote education called I Am Malala. A lot of great contributions were made to the charity. Criticisms of Malala were spread like wildfire while she was in hospital and preaching. One of the main criticisms on social media was that Malala was not shot. Siavuddin has been widely accused as US, CIA operative because he is the backbone to oppose the Taliban. And the allegations grew stronger when Malala was considered for the Nobel Prize. Some have asked what Malala did just to give the Nobel. Some of them asked, why not include the two girls who were shot along with Malala? And also, there are claims that Malala was shot by the USA, and that was to discredit Pakistan. True or false, there may be many opinions, but the rules that shook a country in gunpoint, and the parents who were forced to send their daughter to be married off before she was an adult. From that situation, Malala asked the valuable question that, how the Taliban got the courage to take away my right for education. Ziauddin did not hesitate to publicly oppose the Taliban in channel discussions. He also quoted, "The Quran is not saying that Islam teaches to oppose girls' education. Instead, it says that girls should receive compulsory education." Ziauddin knew that the Taliban were among those who intended to behead him, but he was not afraid of it, because he realized that ignorance was the curse of the land. Malala Yousafzai stood by Ziauddin when he set out for the vision of a society at the risk of his own life. If one of those who stood against the wall of the kitchen and education had came forward and said that I should study, that was Malala's victory. It's just that. Getting an education is everyone's right. No religion or religious organization has the power to oppose it.